Well, there's mayhem, there's usually McEwen, and Robbie emerged from the chaos yesterday to win the 9th stage of his Tour career. He'll have an uphill battle to make it 10, though. The riders climb the notorious Cauberg on stage 3. As the Tour leaves Luxembourg, it pays tribute to the country's greatest rider, Charlie Gore. So do we. And there's your chance to be in Paris for the final stage of the race. Hello, 4 days in, and we're on our 5th country, so I better be quick. The tour guide wants us back on the coach in half an hour. Since starting in France on Saturday, the tour has ducked in and out of Germany, finished in Luxembourg yesterday, and today, stage 3 comes through Belgium to finish here in the Dutch city of Valkenburg. Maybe the riders have been preoccupied with having the right modem adapters for their laptops, who knows? But so far, the race has been chaos, and of course, all the better television for that. So, before we get on with today's madness, let's remind ourselves of the fragile status quo. And Sweden's Tor Hushovd is back in the yellow jersey after his 3rd place in the sprint yesterday. In fact, the top 3 from yesterday's stage have all jumped ahead of George Hincapie, who drops from 1st to 4th. But the big news of the day was provided by the small sprinter from Queensland.
Robbie McEwen is going to get it. Robbie McEwen has done it at last. He's got his stage win in the Tour de France. Robbie McEwen, I don't think, is going to lose this one. He's moving off his line. There'll be a protest, but McEwen, for the moment, gets the win.
Oh, that's nice.
Robbie McEwen has taken the green jersey in the finest possible manner, and I think he's crying.
Oh, it's fantastic.
The only way to do it. There's a crash. Somebody's gone down on the left-hand side of the road. It's Robbie McEwen who's gone down.
Whoa.
And you know, oh!
McEwen always comes out best when the going gets rough, and McEwen in Belgium gets the result. Here comes McEwen, he's got the legs this time. Robbie McEwen is forced to the line and takes it. That's revenge for you. Yes, we know, Robbie. It was pretty good, wasn't it?
Fantastic.
Well, there's a look at the route facing Robbie today, if he fancies repeating yesterday's heroics. 216 kilometres from Esch in Luxembourg, through Belgium, to the legendary mountains of Holland. Chris Boardman's on one of them.
Well, Robbie McEwen may have won 9 stages of this famous race, but I think it's highly unlikely that Valkenburg is going to be where he moves into double figures, and that's because of this, the famous Cauberg. It's been decisive in numerous Amstel Gold Classic races. It's also figured in the 1998 World Championships when that was held here. It's not desperately steep, it averages 7.3%. It's only 800 metres long, but crucially, it's just 2.5 kilometres from the finish. It's also not the only climb of the day. There are 6 categorised climbs in the race, and they're all in the last half, which means we might also see the first successful breakaway of 2006. Well, one thing's for sure, all that packaged together means we're in for a fantastic day's racing. And these people have gathered hours before the race gets here in their thousands because they know this is likely to be the scene of the decisive battle.
Well, this was the scene at the start. Robbie McEwen leading the green jersey points competition. Tor Hushovd 2nd in that category, and of course 1st overall. Now, with the time gap so small at this stage of the race, the favourites for the overall are spread around the classification. Alejandro Valverde is the best placed of them, other than George Hincapie, of course. He's in 7th, 16 seconds back. Then come Paolo Cebaldelli, Floyd Landis, Cadel Evans, Jaroslav Popovic and Levi Leipheimer, all within a span of 13 seconds. And Chris Boardman, it looks like another absolutely scorching day in prospect.
Well, if the riders could have ordered the weather for this race, I don't think they'd have changed a great deal at all. Even that crosswind, well, they've been protected from that by all these trees. So it's a fantastic first few days, chance for them to ease themselves in. I think the legs are going to start hurting soon, though.
Certainly towards the end of the stage when the climbs kick in. At the back of the rollout in Esch, David Zabriskie seemed to be nominating his CSC teammate Jens Voigt for something. And in fact, Jens was off the front at the 14-kilometre mark. He soon had company. 4 other riders got across to him and settled into a stable breakaway group. Venezuela's Unai Echevarria, Jose Luis Arrieta of Spain, and 2 Frenchmen, Jérôme Pinault and Christophe Laurent. Voigt was the best placed of them, though, 36 seconds off the race lead. By the time he'd picked up 3 bonuses in the intermediate sprints, just 20 seconds off the race lead. While Voigt was taking the sprints, Jérôme Pinault was mopping up the mountain points. And once he'd made it over the summit of the third climb of the day, he was level on points with David de la Fuente in the King of the Mountains competition. Behind them, a couple of riders went down. Fred Rodriguez of the USA and the Dutchman Eric Decker possibly having touched wheels, we couldn't see. But the cause was academic. The result was that they were both in the ambulance and out of the race.
Through the trees for the 5 leaders, the gap around about 2 minutes 50 seconds. We are now on Dutch territory as the riders have left Belgium behind and they're racing for the finish atop the Kouwberg. They've got round about 32 kilometers or so still to race, about 20 miles.
Just information coming through over race radio. Pippo Pozzato, the man who is in the Tour de France here to lead out Tom Boonen in the sprint, has been dropped by the main field, so he's not obviously having a very good day. We're now, Phil, as we've crossed the border into Holland, getting into what I think is a very testing, the most testing part of today's course.
Look how the roads have changed already, Paul. Narrow, twisting, wooded. These descents are sharp. The riders got to keep the wits about them now. We're coursing through a beautiful area of Holland. This is not the flatlands. This is the area of the southern Limburg region where the hills abound here, and this is what the area they call Little Switzerland.
It certainly is. It's absolutely magnificent as long as you don't have to ride a bicycle through it at 45 kilometers an hour. The time gap is dropping dramatically. It was 6 minutes at one stage. Now it's down to 2.5. Well, Liquigas are the team who've decided to come to the front right now, and they are thinking about Luca Paolini. They're a little bit further back. There are always 1 or 2 riders from De Vitamont Lotto moving forward now, as well as Peter Wiening in the Rabobank jersey there. He's thinking about the possibility of a win for their squad. 8 Dutchmen at the start of the Tour, now down to 7 with the dramatic crash of Eric Decker, who we think was taken to hospital with a little bit of a problem. But look at the difference. These riders now, Phil, are on the slopes of the Côte de Lourberg. And watch out for the man in the pale blue shorts. He needs a single point to take over the lead in the King of the Mountains classification.
There is Pinault. They know what he needs. They might not even challenge him. They might say, OK, you've done your work. You can have the lead now because we can't get it. On the other hand, they might go for the points.
Well, watch out for the man in the orange jersey of Euskaltel, because he had points at the start of the day. He's been placed on a couple of occasions. But if you look at the way these riders are starting to ride, you can see and almost feel the fatigue that's beginning to creep into them. And the time gap they have over the main field, and it's Arrieta who's going to try and spoil the party for the French here, because he's gone down the left-hand side of the road.
So here he goes, and this for a polka dot jersey tonight at the finishing line. As now Jérôme Pinault has won, about to win. No, he gets second. Oh, he'd better move then, because they're coming at him, and Voigt is coming at him. It's almost if they stop racing, and now he goes again. So he's made a real sprint of this. He's a little bit shocked when he came around the corner. He never saw the banner, and now he's got to make he could have made a mess of it. He's such a long way to the line.
Well, he had to respond to Arrieta's first move there, but this is the strange thing when you come to these short fourth category climbs, because sometimes you can get caught out, and if you don't make the effort in the right place, he could end up in third place, fourth place, and he doesn't want that to happen. He knows, Phil, he's got to finish top 3.
Well, the one rider, Unai Echeverria, is hanging on at the back of this now, but at last he's done it. Thank heavens for that, he says. So we have a new leader in the King of the Mountains competition, and after 4 Tours de France, he's finished all 4 previously, Jérôme Pinault. As our cars go back up, this is the convoy of team cars. They always have to ride on the right of the road to allow free passage of other things. Cars, bicycles, including our camera. Just seeing slipping down the side there too was Aitor Hernandez. Here he is, and he was the boy in the action yesterday for all day, obviously paying the price of the effort yesterday.
Well, that is the important thing, which I cannot stress enough about the Tour de France. You go out and do a long breakaway, especially in this kind of heat, you have to pay the addition one day. You have to pay the bill at the end of the Tour.
That's right. Well, we heard from race radio there was an attack by Michael Bogart and Bram de Groot, 2 Dutchmen on the Rabobank team. Well, our cameras aren't picking them up, so and in fact, just on the right, it looked like the champions jersey of Holland. Yes, it is. So they've been caught, but they have made one move to try and split this field up already. There's Cadel Evans forcing his way into the front as well. The Australian for De Vitamont Lotto. He's a long-term prospect for a big finish this year.
You can feel the pain these riders are going through this afternoon. They're getting to the sticky part of today's course. They've covered that one fourth category climb. In around about 10 kilometers time, they've got another fourth category, followed 10 kilometers after that by the last climb of the day up to the summit of the Kauberg. But you see, these roads, Phil, are very precarious, a lot more narrow. They're zigzagging around the countryside of Limburg here, up and down. And even though we've got 2 more categorized climbs, there's no more flat left in today's race.
Hi, I'm Frank Schleck, and you are watching the Tour on ITV.
Welcome back to today's stage. As the Tour says farewell to Luxembourg, it pays its respects to a favourite son. Charlie Gall, the angel of the mountains, now enshrined here at the cemetery in Itzig, just 15 miles from the start at Esch-sur-Alzette. Charlie Gall won the 1958 Tour thanks to a great mountain stage win, 137 miles from Briançon to Aix-les-Bains. In atrocious conditions, Gall built an enormous lead of over 5.5 minutes on the Col de Port. It became 8 minutes on the Coucheron and built again over the Granier to over 14 minutes at the finish line. It was one of the great performances of the century in any sport. The Tour never forgets its own. Gall was a true man of the people and a real hero of cycling.
He was known as the Angel of the Mountains, simply because of the ease he could climb the big mountains. And he became a total superstar in Luxembourg because he was taking on the big riders of the day and he was beating them. He was such a likable man too.
For the Luxembourg people, he was a simple guy who made the name of Luxembourg popular in the whole world.
Oh, c'est difficile de désigner le meilleur de l'histoire, mais en tout cas, il compte parmi les meilleurs de l'histoire, avec Federico Bahamontes notamment. Mais je crois que Charlie Gall, évidemment, n'a qu'un Tour de France à son actif. C'est tout simplement parce qu'il avait une petite équipe, et avec cette petite équipe, il ne pouvait pas aller bien loin.
I think it's the way he could climb hills, because in those days the roads weren't as good in the Pyrenees and the Alps as they are now. And you got a rough ride and plenty of flat tyres. But this guy would remount his bike in often atrocious conditions, and the souplesse, the ease at which he pedalled that bike up a mountain, he made everybody envious.
Charlie died just 2 days short of his 73rd birthday and will be fondly remembered by all those with a love of this sport.
But it's going to be a real rip-roaring run up to the finish because it is very tortuous. There's still another fourth category climb to come in a couple of kilometers' time, and that will be the Côte de Trientelaine. That's at 201 kilometers into the race, followed by the 14 kilometers further up the road, the third category climb of the Kauberg. Lots of nervousness now starting to appear. Look at Jens Voigt. He really is a puncher when it comes to riding a bike. He's aggressive. He looks as if he's fighting the bicycle. He looks for the breakaways on situations like this, tries to get himself into the lead, battles out on the long breakaways. Unai Echevarria has been riding at around about 43 kilometers an hour. As going to the back, Jose Luis Arrieta taking on board drinks. And there's another crash at the back. And there's a number of riders gone down here very hard indeed.
I thought for a moment there, in fact, that it was a crash with a spectator, but he was just helping them out of a mess. It looks as though we had a change. Iban Mayo had a quick wheel change. And this is the thing that happens in a race like this. When you see a rider stop on the roadside like that with Iban Mayo, he's a race leader, a team leader, possible race winner. He doesn't wait for a spur wheel, he grabs a teammate's wheel and gets on with it.
Reminds me of a couple of years ago when he was the big challenger to Lance Armstrong, and he crashed just before a section of cobblestones and lost himself 3.5 minutes. The whole team has pulled back now for Iban Mayo. That's an indication, Phil, that they've got a lot of confidence in this man to finish high up in the overall classification. Rode a brilliant Dauphiné Libéré earlier this year, winning one of the new climbs that we're going to see in the Tour de France in a couple of weeks' time up to the summit of La Toussuire.
Meanwhile, with a lead of 1 minute and 28 seconds now, and just about 21 kilometers to go, a little more than 12 miles to the finish, these boys are beginning to think they might have a slight chance. Well, Iban Mayo is the man dodging through the cars. He's being brought back up by 3 teammates here, including Inigo Landa Luz and David Lopez Garcia. to try and get him back into the pack quickly and without using too much energy, because we've still got 2 climbs to come, and this race will explode at that point because the leaders, they want to be caught before the Cowberg turns up.
They certainly do. We're looking here at the sign indicating 20 kilometers to go to the finish. Bram tanking on the front there. There's another move coming from the front group. This is not good when you're thinking about surviving as a group of 5 riders. When you start attacking one at a time like this, it's an indication that you're starting to lose momentum.
That is Christophe Laurent again from Agri Turbel, the wildcard team who has gone. It's his second attack in the last 8 or 9 kilometers, and he really has gone this time, and there's been no reaction from them.
No reaction from Jens Voigt either. Jens, I would have expected to be the man to be all over any kind of counter move like this, because Jens is an aggressive athlete. He always looks for the move. And Laurent now looking over his shoulder as we go to the back end of the main field, and you can see here that Iban Maia has made the contact with the group, but because this is so dangerous to run into the finish, he really needs to ride straight up to the front if he can. There's a rider gone halfway across the gap there. It looks like a pale blue jersey, so it very much could be Jérôme Pinault, but it's not. In fact, it's Jose Luis Arrieta, and the group now is starting to split up. These are difficult roads, very rough roads, very reminiscent of the roads in the Pyrenees, a lot further south of where we are at the moment, over the border in Holland, and Jose Luis Arrieta has made a very good move. This is Jens Voigt coming across there. Even at this altitude, I can recognize the style of the big strong man from Germany. Jumped across and left the 2 companions way behind, not even able to get into his slipstream. Big Jens digging deep. You can imagine, you can almost see him gritting his teeth to nail down that little gap between himself and those 2 riders in front.
Well, what is going on in the peloton, Paul? But there's Française de Deux riders, 2 of them are down there. This is it again.
This, Phil, is fatigue. This is the day 3 out on the open road. It's the most difficult day for many of the riders. Victor Hugo Peña has gone down. Valverde has gone down too.
Ouch,
there's the
and
white
this doesn't
jersey.
look good.
Well, Alejandro Valverde does not look very good at all. Let's see where the crash happened there.
Right in the middle, bottom corner, touch of wheels. I'm not sure it wasn't Valverde who went down there first, actually, Paul. He was the first man down.
He went down very hard, and it was right up at the front end of the main field. Oh, this looks like it could be a collarbone.
Oh, no. Well, this man was one of the big stars. He was even tipped to win today. This is going to be very sad news. The pictures, of course, also live in Spain, and they will be beside themselves. Alejandro Valverde, the man who beat Lance Armstrong to the top of the Alps in Courchevel last year, and then retired with a damaged knee, but said he would come back and ride a great tour, and it doesn't look good. It was Valverde, Paul, who went down first.
Went down first, went down very hard, riding sensibly at the front of the main field in 25th to 30th position. He went down so hard, and I think the hopes of Spain will have taken a little bit of a dive this afternoon.
And I think this is it, Paul, because even if he gets up and finishes, he'll lose far too much time. He can never recuperate.
He's not going to finish the stage this afternoon. It was my favorite to finish first on the stage here this afternoon, because the finish here at the summit of the Cowberg is definitely an Alejandro Valverde finish.
Yep, strong as you like, and you see he'd ridden intelligently until that fall, then he dropped right back down the field. Now, he was the first rider down. Whether it was his fault is another matter.
It looked to me, the way he went, he didn't control the fall. I think he probably touched the wheel of a rider in front, and when that happens, you don't have time to control the way you're going to fall, and that's how collarbones get snapped.
Sadly. Well, we're looking at Christophe Laurent here, who started the move and has now found the experience of Arrieta and Voigt a little bit too much for him. There he is, that man that never says die, just goes on all the time. Jens Voigt has had a couple of yellow jerseys in his career, plus a polka dot one, not for keeps, but just for a day or so. And the crowd here are watching this breakaway now completely disintegrate. The sun and the pace has bitten those legs off, I think.
Well, you can see just how difficult this stage is turning out to be over the final few kilometers down towards the line. This is the man at the end of the day will climb onto the podium. It'll be the podium as the King of the Mountains leader. In front of him, Hernandez. Just in front of him, Jens Voigt. In front of him, Laurent. And the man leading the race currently is the man from AG2R, the Spanish rider, Jose Luis Arrieta.
Sadly, the words appeared on our computer screens. Abandon of Alejandro Valverde. So he is out of the Tour de France along with Fred Rodriguez and Eric Decker today. Now, what a sad day for those guys.
Hi, I'm Stuart O'Grady and more from the Tour de France after the break.
Welcome back to our highlights coverage of the Tour de France today here on ITV4. Well, as the riders come towards the finish in Valkenburg atop the Cowberg, let's take some of your emails. We've just got one or two here. For our first one coming in from Nicola Hudson. My dad has an official tour programme and it mentions a puncher. He is wondering what it means, Paul.
Well, I've taken the official guide. This is it. And what it does, it takes down every different kind of rider and breaks him down into a different category. Obviously, you've got the leaders, you've got the grimpeurs, who are the climbers, you've got the sprinters, you've got the rouleurs, who are riders who are very good on the flat stages. The puncher, in fact, is a rider who's an aggressive rider and looks to try and get in the breakaways on stages like today.
Right, OK, let's go on to email number 2. That was for Nicola. This one is from Martin French in Aldershot. Why is there no team time trial this year? Well, I think I can answer that one, Martin. The organiser of the Tour de France, it's their tour, they can decide what they want to do with it. It has been the way these last few years to put the team time trial in, but this year they chose, last October when they announced the route, not to have a team time trial, and in fact it would have been today probably, but instead we've got this wonderful race that is over the hills of the Belgian Ardennes coming down to the finishing line here. So it's an organiser's prerogative, and who knows, he could well be back in next year. Another question for Paul here from Stephen Guest. Can you tell me if this year's team are using tubular tyres or do some now use clincher tyres, Paul?
Well, first of all, let's just explain the difference between clinchers and tubulars. Clinchers, or wired-on tyres, are the tyres that most people have on their bicycle at home, and you can take that off with tyre levers, and if you haven't got a tyre lever, you can use a spoon, and the inner tube is inside of that. Tubular tyres, which are used by a lot of professionals, are a complete unit. The tyre is actually sewn up at the bottom with the inner tube inside, and then it's actually stuck onto a flat rim. A lot of the riders prefer those because you can pump them up to a slightly higher pressure and it makes it a lot better when you're actually out on the open road. But when it comes to who's using them in the Tour de France, 50% of the teams use them. It really comes down to a sponsorship deal, who you're sponsored by, whether the sponsor makes wired-on tyres, clinchers as they call them in the United States, or whether they use, in fact, the tubular tyre.
And the sort of pressure you can get in them, by the way, is around 120 pounds per square inch, 5 times a car tyre pressure. All right, the final one is coming in from Susan Wood of London. She says, I remember the Tour visiting Valkenburg some years ago, but can't remember who won the day. Can you help? Indeed, we can, Susan. We were both there, of course. It was a great finish, one of those rare French victories, too. It was Gilles de Lyon, and the year was 1992. And today's finish will be equally as exciting, I can assure you of that. So let's get back to the action. There's the main field just behind us. Salvatore Camesso, former champion on 2 occasions, I think, from Italy, and he's won a couple of stages of the Tour de France. Now trying to pull one over the sprinters because he's known as a sprinter, this man. But instead, he's decided to try a new tactic and go alone. He's still got to close the gap down, of course, to the breakaway, and that might prove a little bit of his undoing. At the moment, it is still just over a minute and a quarter to the leader.
This is Laurent and Jens Voigt. The engine room has shut down on these two riders. They're about 15 to 20 seconds behind the lone leader, but you can see the difference in the speed. The man at the front, Jose Luis Arrieta, was a lot more concentrated on keeping himself high up there in his output of wattage. He's trying to keep himself right up, right on the edge of the position where he's producing massive amounts of lactic acid, but for him, he's just trying to survive for the next 20 minutes or so.
Well, 1 minute 25 between the leader and the debris in between and the main chase group. It is still possible, but I can't see them getting over the Cowberg without catching him.
I'll tell you what, the Cowberg is around about 1.5 kilometers long, and he could see himself losing 30 to 40 seconds on the main field because they are going to charge up the Cowberg. It's an unbelievable climb. It's made a lot more difficult by the fact that the riders will have done 216 kilometers by the time they get there. But fingers crossed. Sometimes you want the man in the breakaway to succeed, and they've been away, these riders, since very early on in the race. Built a maximum lead up of 6 minutes and 10 seconds at one stage, and now as the race gets into its final phase, they're slowly but surely eating into his advantage.
Well, Arrieta has ridden 6 tours before he came to this one. He's only ever given up in one. He abandoned on stage 15, which would have been a mountain stage at the time. For whatever reason, but that's the only tour he's ever given up. He's seen Paris on every occasion other than that one, and now this is his best chance to win the stage. And again, another strange result here. 10 kilometers to go. This is a Spanish rider in the early part of the tour. We never saw Spanish riders attack on these flat roads ever before.
No, but these riders now, because of the Pro Tour, are riding all over Europe all of the time. And at 10 kilometers to go, he's looking at around about 14 minutes of effort left to try and win a stage of the Tour de France. But he's been hurting himself since the very start this morning because he's been in the lead for an awful long time.
Well, that's right.
Different team moving up to the front. The lime green jerseys of Liquigas are trying to get it organized for their man Luca Paolini. I can't see very much work being done at the front end of this pack here by the quick step riders of Tom Boonen. These are the second and third place riders on the road. Laurent in second position there, Voigt in first position, and they are just a little bit further back down the road. I make it around about 30 seconds now. In fact, just confirmation over race radio, it's now 40 seconds over the two chasers, and the main field are in full charge behind at just inside the 1 minute mark. It's going to be dreadfully close for the lone leader, Jose Luis Arrieta, because you can see the main field now have got the bit between their teeth. They want to charge into Valkenburg, and the cavalry want to take the Kouwberg one more time. 10 kilometers to go for the main field.
They love their cycling here in Holland, and Valkenburg is like a mecca to the sport. Here on top of the Kouwberg Hill, the crowd have come out in force to cheer the riders home. There are 300,000 Dutch lining the road today, and that's just from the border to the finish. It's on these roads that the great one-day classic, the Amstel Gold Race, is held. There's even a black cab representing London. Not often you see one of these this far south of the river. What can you do?
Look at the crowd here. People are turning out in their hundreds of thousands on this race here through Holland. Just a slight incursion. The race left Luxembourg this morning, rode all the way across the country of Belgium and finished its last 30 kilometers inside the country of the Netherlands. And we've got a Spaniard leading the race, and I'm sure that's not what the Dutch were expecting. Milram now starting to get it organized at the front. Number of different teams here whipping up the pacemaking. You can't see Robbie McEwen near the front, but you can be absolutely certain he is not too far away. Looking a bit further back, there is the Dutch national champion Michael Bogert. He knows this climb very well. He's won the Amstel Gold Race, but it didn't finish at the top of the Kouwberg when he won it. It finished in the town of Maastricht, but he's finished second at the top of the Kouwberg on 2 occasions.
All that remains now of today's stage of the Tour de France is to sweep up the men ahead and to get onto the crowd-lined Kouwberg climb, where the riders will be deafened by the screams and the shouts, and they're shouting, of course, for a Dutch winner today. But there's a big problem, and his name is Jose Luis Arrieta.
And he's holding on to a big chunk of his advantage. It's 1 minute and 20 seconds. Jens Voigt and Laurent are just about 50 seconds behind him. But this man may well just cause the massive surprise. He's riding very well. He's riding very strongly. Doesn't look like a broken man at all here. He's hugging the side of the road, trying to keep himself out of the wind as much as possible. He knows the course. He knows what's in store for him. He's actually got to hold back a little bit of energy, Phil, because it'll take an awful lot of energy to get his body over the Kouwberg.
Well, it is a big effort required now. He can't make any more. This is Jerome Pino here, who said, that's me for the day. Well, don't forget to go to the podium, because a polka dot jersey awaits you, Jerome. And he'll do that when he gets to the end, but that's it for the day now. He'll cruise home. He's around about 10 kilometers still to ride, but for these boys, they're picking up Christophe Laurent there. There's Jens Voigt, left picture, so he's gone past as well. And now the pack know they're catching them, and that's going to inspire the chase. I think this man, Paul, is the only one left.
He is the only man left at the front of the bike race, and it's just been slashed from 1 minute and 20 seconds down to 1 minute and 2 seconds. Over the next few kilometers, he's going to lose huge chunks of time. What he's got to do is get himself into a zone, not think about the fact that the main field is coming back, just try and concentrate and keep the pain at a bearable level in his legs and in his mind as well.
The temperatures are so high here, and he's chosen the whole day to lead the race.
Well, he's led the race for an awful long time, and now it's just really a question of survival. It comes down to the old cat and mouse tactic. Will the teams of the sprinters get it right once again, as they always seem to do? Poor old Matthias Kessler yesterday looked like he had race one at 1 kilometer to go, and they snatched him up at 50 meters from the finish line. No mercy.
And look at the pace being put on here by Liquigas now, because they're hoping to deliver Luca Paolini to the line. He's a little bit more than just a sprinter, Luca Paolini. So that's why this rider here is gritting his teeth and going on. Bogart is just off our picture to the red jersey on the left there. He knows the way up the Coburg better than any man in this bunch.
Tom Bonan is over there on the right-hand side as well. He's being piloted to the front by Juan Manuel Garate. You can see him there, the rider in the blue jersey with the orange and red bands on, former champion of Spain. He's trying to keep Boonen at the front. Boonen may well cause a surprise here this afternoon. You know, Boonen, I think, wants the win, because if he gets the win, he could get himself the lead in the yellow jersey competition. And tomorrow, we start in Belgium.
Yes, and that's exactly why he wants it. So important to Tom today to take yellow tonight and to go to Huy tomorrow for the race start, which then takes us back into France, and there we will stay. But Michael Rogers also is a rider who can ride pretty well in the mountains. He's a time trial specialist. This rider, though, is just sitting there, concentrating, not looking round, just hoping.
Well, the rock is starting to appear in his shoulders there. You see the head bouncing about a fraction. I'm not surprised. He's starting to feel the fatigue creep all the way through his body, while he knows behind these men will show him no mercy at all. They will run him down, right down to the finish. But he's still holding on to 49 seconds advantage with 5 kilometers to go.
You know, Gerolsteiner are right up there as well, and that's Levi Leipheimer's team. They're also planning something here.
Well, this is Stuart O'Grady, and he seems to have been dropped off the back of the group. Now, that's a bit of a surprise for me, because Stuart O'Grady was high up in the overall classification at the start of the day in 8th place.
I've no idea. The camera just cut back to him there. He's behind, and he's going to not feature in the finish today, that's for sure. Now we're in the outskirts of Valkenburg here now, at around 4 kilometers to go. That'll be the 4-kilometer banner. So we are nearly there. We crossed the town. Look at the crowd here. Half of them haven't bothered to go up to Valkenburg, Coburg rather. We'll cross the crowd line here into this town. This is a famous holiday town here in Holland. And then we'll flick up to the climb and grit your teeth and hang on, because these boys are going to rip the race apart now.
They are going to rip the race apart at 31 seconds for Jose Luis Arrieta. He's in the town of Valkenburg. Very shortly, he's going to take a very nasty left-hand turn, and in front of him will be a wall known as the Coburg, a very famous climb in the sport of professional cycling. Yellow jersey, Thor Hushovd, right up at the front end of the main field.
Sort of.
He has to fight to stay up there this afternoon to keep in the lead.
Here we are, Valkenburg, around the corner, just 2/10 of a kilometre, 2/10 of a mile rather, is the climb of the Coburg. We'll make the turn, we'll hit it. Well, it's when you get to this stage, yet again, you want to get on that bike and give him a hand, because they deserve the victory. But the boys behind are chasing. Here's the sweep. Take it wide, Jose Luis, and then start the climb before an enormous crowd right in the distance. Here we go up around those houses, out into the countryside. Once over the climb, 2 straight kilometres to the finish.
Ouch, and it's really going to hurt. 21 seconds advantage. He's going here through a tunnel of noise as all of these people want him to succeed. They've been watching this race for about 2.5 hours live on television, and at 3 kilometers to go, they really want this man to win at the top of the Coburg. It's only 0.8 of a kilometer long. 7.3% is the average gradient, and at the top, there's 2 kilometers to go to the finish. Pulling the cars out like that, Phil, is not a great sign.
14 seconds is the time gap we are getting. 14 seconds. The climb starts around the corner. And Jose Luis Arrieta knows why those cars are leaving him. These are desperate days now for the Spanish cyclists, who really got very close. The climb has started. Here comes the first chase across. Crédit Agricole has ripped off the front of this race, the teammate of Thor Hushovd. And it wouldn't surprise me if this isn't Sebastian Hinault who's trying to reach him.
Look at the people that have turned out here in the town of Valkenburg. This is just like a World Championships crowd whenever the Tour de France comes to Holland, and it's been to Holland on 8 separate occasions previously. The crowd turn out to boot, and there is the main field. This man, Phil, sadly is not going to survive.
Well, he's on the climb, and if he can just get over the top, he's being reached here. It might be Alexander Botcharov who's made a rush at him here, the Russian rider on Crédit Agricole, but his legs have suddenly kicked in. He's coming back. Bogart is looking for the action on the nose now. This is the gap. Tom Boonen is third. They've caught him. It's all for the sprint. Tom Boonen, the world champion. A win means yellow for him. He lies third.
Oscar Freire is up there in 4th as well, right on the wheel of Tom Boonen. The boogie man, they call him. Michael Bugard is all over the front, and Philippe Gilbert is right in the action as well at the front of the main field. Look at the faces of these riders, Phil. This climb, it's horrendous at the end of a long stage like this.
Matthias Matthias Kessler, the hero of yesterday, has really found some strength here as he rips up the Cowberg. But look at the strength of the rider who's just tagged on behind him there. And I wasn't too sure who. Francois Gilbert, must be Gilbert, Philippe Gilbert, he's got him. This would be a huge result for Belgium if this happens. And Boonen, the Bogart, are trying now to reach them, but they still remember it's 2 kilometres over the top. We've had a puncture down the back. What an unfortunate time to get a flat tyre. And that rider, in fact,
Cassar,
is
Sandy
standing.
Cassar.
Well, when you look, he's out, it is out. This boy, we thought would ride well in this year's Tour de France.
He's a long way down now. He's going to lose massive chunks of time. There is the flag up at the top there. This is a great move by Kessler. He was out on the attack yesterday, felt that he was robbed, got caught at just 50 metres to go to the finish line, but they'll get themselves organised behind. Michael Bogert will bury himself to try and get himself in a situation where he can give the win to Oscar Freire, who on his own has been 3 times champion of the world. This man, though, Phil, wearing number 24, he deserves to win. He lost it for 50 metres yesterday.
Of course he does, but the race don't think like commentators do, and they'll hunt him down if they can. He gets the maximum points over the climb. Sorry about the picture breaker, but there are a few trees around. But Kessler is the man who's trying now to get what he couldn't get yesterday, robbed at 50 metres to go.
You know what? Boonen's up there in second place. He's looking very strong. He's got himself over the Cowberg, but now they're getting themselves organised. Team Rabobank want to pull back this one man, Matthias Kessler. He said, I went out on the attack yesterday because I wanted to prove that T-Mobile were in the race. Well, he's inside the last kilometre. There is the kite. He might have timed it right.
Well, I think this time Matthias Kessler has timed it right. He found the strength on the day. Kessler robbed yesterday. Sometimes justice has a strange way of working, but I think this time he is going to achieve his win, and he hasn't won a race since April 2004.
They've slowed down a fraction at the front end of the main field, and that's all you need inside the last kilometre. Matthias Kessler is gritting his teeth. He's looking for the line, but he won't look back because he won't want to see the main field returning up to him. Look at his face. The power he's trying to generate is maximum. The main field are all over the road behind him, but they seem to have paused just too much.
The sprinters started at the back now. The Lampre boys, they're shadow boxing. They've made a mistake. Kessler is going to win this now. Bernardi is opening the run here, but it's all too late. Tom Boonen, if he gets second, he might still get the lead. And Kessler has been in this deja vu situation yesterday, but not today. Matthias Kessler gets the win and deserves it. Who finishes off for second place? Boonen beaten again, and it is a 1-2 because that was T-Mobile, and it was very, very likely Sinkovich or Cloden who got second place.
Well, I tell you what, there's a split in the main field. We need to see where the yellow jersey is, and I think that's him coming in now. So he's lost a little bit of time to
maybe they'll split.
It's going to go back to the count because of that. But Phil, finally, there is a little bit of justice in this sport because Matthias Kessler deserved to win yesterday. Here's Robbie McEwen coming in as well. So the big sprinters didn't get over the climb, apart from, of course, Tom Boonen, who just was a little bit under par this afternoon.
Hi, I'm Magnus Baxet. You're watching the Tour de France on ITV.
Welcome back. No risk, no fun. That's what Matthias Kessler told us yesterday when his attempt at a solo win ended cruelly when the bunch swallowed him up within sight of the finish line. He timed it perfectly today, though, which is more than can be said for Tourosoft. Let's wrap up stage 3 for you now. Starting with Kessler, cruelly deprived of his close-up yesterday, but making the most of it today. And behind him, his teammate Michael Rogers made it a T-Mobile 1-2 in front of Daniele Benati and Tom Boonen. Fourth place not particularly impressive by Boonen's standards, except that he did it on this front tyre, half flat for the last 2 kilometres. Right, there's the stage result. T-Mobile raising team morale the day after the team ordered 3 riders, including Rogers, to end their relationship with an Italian doctor as they look to root out any hint of impropriety. And the old T-Mobile turned Milram sprinter Eric Zabel fighting for 5th behind Boonen. Behind them, most of the big names finished safely in the bunch, some further back than others, all 5 seconds behind Kessler. Not the yellow jersey, though. Thor Hushovd was caught out on the difficult run into Valkenburg. His group was timed at 17 seconds behind Kessler, 12 behind the group containing his main rivals, and that was enough to lose him the race lead to Tom Boonen. Losing time alongside Hushovd was Iban Mayo. Further back, Jens Voigt paid for his breakaway effort to the tune of 1:29. Bradley Wiggins was another 1:15 behind him. Then the likes of Stuart O'Grady struggled in 11.5 minutes down, with big Magnus Backstedt having an even worse day in the heat, losing over 18.5 minutes. Bad news for them, but the big news for the race was the change at the top. Tom Boonen taking over from Thor Hushovd, who also falls behind Michael Rogers and George Hincapie. Paolo Savoldelli also quietly up into the top 5 now. But on a day of injuries, the ambulance was still in service at the finish. Sandy Kazar climbed in after a crash towards the end that nobody saw, and Stuart O'Grady's poor placing was down to a back injury, which is also going to need a trip to hospital tonight. A day late, though, the day belonged to Matthias Kessler, and when he came down off the podium, he spoke to Graham Bell.
Matthias, yesterday you told us no risk, no fun. Same strategy today?
Yeah, sure. Yesterday was a hard stage, today was a hard stage, but great. The Kauberg is very hard mountain. My legs was very good today, and okay, no risk, no fun. I win today.
Lots of fun then.
Lots of fun, yeah.
Okay. Michael Rogers, a few days ago, all lost for T-Mobile, and you've got a smile on your face now. It's good to see it.
Yeah, certainly. You know, the morale was really down the first few days. We've been in the action, you know, since day one. But like yesterday, we just missed it, 100 metres. But you know, we rode well today. Our goal was to keep in the front in the last half of the race, and for sure we did that well today. And yeah, to run 1-2 on the stage is certainly what the team really needs right now.
Now I'm going to put you on the spot here. You're the kind of guy a lot of people have looked at over the past few years, seen you developing good rides in the Tour de Suisse and so on. Now what are your ambitions?
Not to finish last in Paris. Nah, just joking. Yeah, I mean, the Tour is a dream for every cyclist, you know. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort, it takes a lot of concentration and patience. Over the last couple of years, you know, I've always run out of legs, you know, in the last week of the Tour, and, you know, I hope slowly I can get better, and, you know, I'm not going to guarantee anything, but certainly something that I'd love to do, certainly.
Well, Michael Rogers is only a second behind Tom Boonen, and he'll be hoping it's still that way come the time trial on stage 7. With the race moving back into Belgium tomorrow, though, Boonen, who's also leading the points competition now, has timed his move into the race lead perfectly.
We know since the Belgian at the yellow jersey, since Mark Wouters, especially the yellow jersey in Belgium tomorrow. I think it will be a crazy day for me and for the team, but I had to work for it and fight for it. And it's probably one of the hardest 3 days of my life to get what I wanted, but I kept fighting and now I got it, so it's nice.
As far as the rest of the overall placings go, Floyd Landis is now 7th, Cadel Evans 11th, just a couple of places ahead of David Miller, who seems to be handling the pace comfortably so far, while Bradley Wiggins is 152nd. The new king of the mountains, by the way, is Jerome Pino, courtesy of his part in the breakaway. Well, if things had gone according to plan, today might have been the perfect stage for Alejandro Valverde to make a move on the race. As it is, yet another big name will be missing from the Tour de France start list tomorrow. So favourites lost to drugs investigations, now favourites lost to injury. And Chris, was that just one of those classic early week crashes, or should Valverde have been staying safe by riding further forward where the favourites are supposed to ride?
Well, you can't ride at the front for the entire race, and you never know what's caused them to be just there. But from what I saw of that incident, it was just one of those things. The rider in front of him, CSC rider, I think, just moved sideways just at the moment that he was overlapping a wheel, and he went straight down, and that's how collarbones go.
In the chaos that this first week has been so far, though, quite a few of the people that we consider favourites now that the likes of Basso and Ulrich are gone are riding quite far back.
Well, they are, and this was a particularly dodgy finish for them because we saw the bottom of the climb, which was already going to cause some trouble. There were some tight bends that strung it out, so a split was inevitable. Likes of Hincapie didn't get caught out. They were up there in the top 20, but Eman Mayo, probably because of the puncture he'd had earlier, found himself a little bit far back. Bang, 17 seconds gone.
Likes of Floyd Landis in pretty much the same position, and in a race like this year's, which is wide open, those first week small time gaps, which ordinarily wouldn't be a big deal, perhaps might turn into one.
Well, that's exactly the case, and Eban Mayo is one of the people that we were talking about earlier. He is just losing a few seconds all the time, not great in the prologue. Again, this time trial isn't going to be good, and for him, he's going to find he gets to his environment, the mountains, probably a couple of minutes down.
Yeah, the mountains must seem like a long way off for Eban Mayo at the moment. All right, that's about it for tonight, except for our competition question. It's your chance to be with us in Paris on July the 23rd for the final stage of the Tour. if you can tell us who won the green jersey competition in last year's Tour de France. Your options are A. Thor Hushovd, B. Michael Rasmussen, and C. Lance Armstrong. Now you can either call us with the answer on 09012 93 33 93, text the word Tour and either A, B or C to 63337, or you can enter via the website at itv.com/tour. First prize, as I say, a weekend for two in Paris with tickets for the final stage of the Tour, copies of Matt Rendell's biography of Marco Pantani for 5 runners-up. Calls cost £1, by the way, and the lines will be open until midnight this coming Saturday. Well, at the rate of attrition among the big names in this year's race, Saturday looks a long and dangerous way off. The next obstacle for the riders is stage 4. It starts in Belgium, aptly enough for Tom Boonen, who'll be wearing the yellow jersey there in the town of Huy, and finishes back in France at Saint-Quentin. We will have it for you as usual at 7 o'clock on ITV4.